All right, so let's dive right into this whole work-life balance versus hustle culture thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you out there listening are really interested in this.
It's everywhere you look, right?
Yeah, it really is.
It's hard to know what to think sometimes.
Absolutely. And we've got like mountains of research and some fascinating stories to unpack here. So,
Buckle up.
yeah.
We're going to be here for a minute.
You might be surprised at what we uncover, especially about how overwork can really impact your health.
There's some scary stuff out there,
There really is.
but also some inspiring stuff, too.
Yeah, and also the stories of some really famous people who embody this whole hustle mentality. Like,
Oh, yeah, the big names, the titans of industry.
yeah, exactly.
You know what's so fascinating to me, though?
What's up?
We talk about burnout all the time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's just this accepted part of hustle culture.
Right.
But there's this World Health Organization study that actually puts some hard numbers behind it.
Yep.
Yeah, they found that working long hours regularly increases your risk of stroke by a whopping 35%.
Wow, 35%.
And heart disease by 17%.
Okay, those numbers are making me rethink pulling another all-nighter.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to think, oh, I got to push myself to the limit to get ahead.
Right.
But those are serious health risks.
Yeah, they really are.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Taking time to rest and recharge isn't just about avoiding those risks. It can actually make you more effective at work.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Studies show that well-rested people aren't just happier,
Hmm.
they're more productive, make fewer errors, and come up with more creative solutions.
So it's not about like burning the candle at both ends.
No.
But more about finding a way to like keep the flame burning brightly without burning ourselves out in the process.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential downsides of hustle culture, but let's flip the script for a second
Okay.
and talk about the appeal.
All right, let's do it.
Like you think about people like Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey.
These classic examples, right?
Yeah, they're often seen as the embodiment of hard work and dedication, and you can't deny their achievements.
Right, and for some people, that's the reward.
Yeah.
Pushing those boundaries, dedicating themselves to their work,
Yeah.
it's intrinsically rewarding.
It's like they thrive on the challenge.
Yeah.
And find fulfillment in pursuing those like ambitious goals.
It's part of who they are.
Right. I totally get that there's a certain energy,
Yeah.
a momentum that comes with pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone.
For sure.
But is there a point where that drive, like, tips over into something unhealthy?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
there a way to harness that ambition and drive without sacrificing our well-being?
And how do we even define success in a way that encompasses both professional achievements and personal fulfillment?
It's a balancing act, for sure.
So it sounds like we might need to find some middle ground,
Maybe.
some kind of hybrid approach that takes the best of both worlds.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
The drive of hustle culture and the sustainability of work-life balance.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're on the right track.
Okay.
Maybe it's about being strategic,
Well,
understanding when to push and when to pull back.
so it's not this constant grind.
No, not necessarily.
It's more about like understanding our own rhythms,
Yeah,
aligning our work habits with our energy levels.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that our capacity for hard work isn't limitless
Right.
and that prioritizing rest and rejuvenation is just as important as putting in the hours.
This is really making me rethink my whole approach to work.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Maybe instead of glorifying the always-on mentality,
Yeah,
we need to start celebrating the power of strategic disengagement.
that's a brilliant way to put it.
What if instead of viewing rest as a weakness,
Right.
we saw it as a strategic advantage, a way to sharpen our focus, boost our creativity, and ultimately achieve greater success in the long run?
I'm totally on board with that.
All right. I think we're on something here.
Okay, but how do we put this into practice?
No, that's a great question.
Do we all need to become like productivity gurus overnight?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But there are some simple yet powerful strategies that can make a huge difference.
All right, let's hear them.
Let's start with one that seems super obvious, but it's often overlooked: time blocking.
Time blocking.
Have you ever tried actually scheduling time for yourself? For relaxation hobbies or even just doing absolutely nothing?
I've got to admit, I'm terrible at scheduling me time.
Really?
Yeah, it always seems to be the first thing that gets sacrificed when things get busy.
I think you're about to tell me why that's a mistake.
Probably.
The thing is, if we don't intentionally block off time for things outside of work,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to get squeezed out,
Yeah.
Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
Time blocking helps you visually see your commitments.
Sure.
And make sure you're allocating enough time to things that matter to you beyond your job.
So I need to start treating my personal time with the same level of importance as like a work deadline,
Exactly.
like making an appointment with myself to relax and recharge.
And just like you wouldn't cancel an important meeting,
Right.
you should try your best to stick to those personal appointments.
Okay, I'm willing to give it a try.
Good.
What other strategies can help us navigate this whole tricky balance between hustle and well-being?
Let's talk about a word that can be surprisingly difficult to say.
No! Oh, no, right?
That's a tough one.
It is for a lot of people.
I'm a total people pleaser.
Ah,
Saying no is like almost physically painful.
I hear you, but learning to say no is crucial for protecting your time and energy.
Okay.
It's not about being rude or anything.
Right.
It's about being assertive and respecting your own limits.
Mm.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is decline a request that doesn't align with your goals or values.
You're right. Saying yes to everything just leads to feeling overwhelmed and resentful.
It's a recipe for burnout.
Yeah, so setting boundaries is about being selective with our time and energy so we can focus on the things that truly matter.
Exactly, and sometimes saying no to something that doesn't serve you creates the space to say yes to something that truly excites you.
I love that it's about being intentional with our choices and making sure they align with our overall goals and aspirations.
Now let's talk about unplugging.
Unplugging.
Yeah, in today's hyper-connected world, it's so easy to be on all the time.
It really is.
But constantly checking emails, scrolling through social media, being bombarded with notifications.
It's exhausting.
It can really take a toll. Our brains need downtime to process information, to rest, and simply be.
Tell me about it. I am definitely guilty of mindlessly scrolling way more than I'd like to admit.
But you're saying that even short breaks from technology can make a difference. Absolutely. Think of unplugging as a mini vacation for your mind.
Ooh, I like that.
Even a 5-minute walk in nature, a few minutes of meditation, or simply sitting in silence can do wonders for your mental clarity and energy levels.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see a theme here. It's not about making these radical changes, but about incorporating small intentional practices into our daily routines to prioritize our well-being.
You got it.
Time blocking, say no unplugging. This is starting to feel doable.
It is.
What else should we be thinking about?
It's also essential to regularly reflect on your goals and how you're feeling. Are you moving in the direction you want to be? Are you feeling energized or burned out? Are your current strategies supporting your well-being or adding to your stress?
Okay, so it's like taking your own pulse,
Exactly.
both professionally and personally, to make sure you're on a path that feels good and is leading you towards where you want to go.
I like that analogy.
Self-awareness is key.
Yes.
Regularly checking in with ourselves to make sure actions are aligned with our values and aspirations.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day,
Totally.
and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But taking the time to reflect can help you stay on track and make adjustments as needed.
It's like having a regular checkup for your work-life balance.
I love that.
Any final tips before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Don't underestimate the power of support.
Support, like
Whether it's mentors, colleagues, friends, family, having a network of people you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, and rely on for encouragement can make all the difference sometimes. Just knowing you're not alone in this journey can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I love that it's a reminder that we don't have to figure everything out on our own.
Right.
Sometimes just having someone to listen and offer a different perspective can be exactly what we need.
And sometimes a first perspective can help us see solutions we might not have noticed on our own.
So true. All right, folks. That's it for part 1 of our deep dive into work-life balance versus hustle culture. We've covered a lot of ground, from the surprising health risks of overwork to the power of strategic rest and the importance of setting boundaries.
But this is just the beginning. In part 2, we'll explore some real-life examples of people who have found unique and inspiring ways to create a work life that truly supports their well-being and fuels their success. So stay tuned.
So in part 1, we really dug into the science behind rest
Yeah.
and the surprising appeal of hustle culture.
Mm-hmm.
We even started sketching out what a hybrid approach might look like,
Right.
blending strategic effort with intentional downtime.
Right.
And now it's time to see how these concepts are playing out in the real world.
Yeah, I think sometimes real-life examples can be way more illuminating than any study or statistic.
Oh, for sure. Stories help us connect with ideas in a way that raw data just can't match.
Absolutely.
So what kind of examples are we talking about? Are there people out there actually thriving by blending these seemingly opposite approaches?
Absolutely. Let's start with the rise of the digital nomad.
Ooh, digital nomads.
You've probably heard the term, but what's fascinating is how they embody this hybrid approach to work and life. They're leveraging technology to work remotely, often traveling the world and building lifestyles that seamlessly integrate work and personal passions.
Okay, that definitely sounds appealing.
Right.
But is it really sustainable? I mean, can you truly be productive and focused while, like, hopping from one exotic location to the next?
That's the question a lot of people ask, and,
Yeah.
and the answer is it depends.
Okay.
For some, the constant change and lack of structure can be distracting,
Right.
but for others, it fuels their creativity and allows them to bring a fresh perspective to their work.
So maybe it's not about the location itself, but about finding an environment that energizes you and allows you to work in a way that feels aligned with your natural rhythms.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this shift in how we think about work. The traditional 9 to 5 office model is being challenged, and people are experimenting with new ways to integrate work into their lives rather than compartmentalizing it.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the idea that balance doesn't have to look the same for everyone. For some, it might be a clear separation between work and personal time, while for others, it might be about blending those worlds more fluidly.
You're spot on. And this leads us to another interesting trend: companies offering unlimited vacation time.
Oh, unlimited vacation time.
It sounds like a dream come true.
Yeah.
But does it actually work in practice? Do people really take more time off when there's no set limit?
I'll admit I've always been skeptical about unlimited vacation policies.
Yeah.
It seems like it could easily backfire with people either taking too much time off or feeling pressured to never take any time off at all.
It's a valid concern, and the research is mixed, but there's evidence that when implemented correctly, these policies can lead to employees taking more vacation, not less.
Right.
Think about it in traditional vacation policies. There's this sense of having to earn your time off, right?
Right. You accrue a certain number of days per year,
Yeah.
and you might feel guilty using them or worry about what your colleagues or boss will think.
Exactly. But with unlimited vacation, the focus shifts from accruing days to focusing on outcomes and productivity. As long as you're meeting your goals and getting your work done, you have the flexibility to take the time you need to recharge and come back to work feeling refreshed.
So it's about trusting employees to manage their own time and well-being,
Yes,
which in turn can lead to greater engagement and productivity.
precisely. And some companies that have adopted this approach have reported increased employee satisfaction and even a decrease in burnout rates.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It challenges the traditional notion that more time at work automatically equals greater output. It sounds like giving employees more autonomy over their time can actually benefit everyone involved.
Right. And it speaks to this idea of shifting our mindset from hours worked to the value we create. It's not about how much time we spend at our desks, but about the quality of our work and the impact we're making.
Okay, so we've got digital nomads blurring the lines between work and travel,
Mm-hmm.
and companies experimenting with unlimited vacation time.
Right.
What other real-world examples can help us understand how to create a more fulfilling work life?
Let's talk about something that's gaining a lot of traction, the 4-day work week.
Ooh, now that's an idea I can definitely get behind. But is it actually a viable option, or is it just a pipe dream for overworked professionals?
Well,
What does the research say?
several countries and companies have piloted 4-day work week programs, and the results are pretty promising.
Okay.
For employees, the benefits are clear. An extra day off each week means more time for family hobbies, personal projects, or simply relaxing and recharging.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about from the employer's perspective? Is there any evidence that this model actually benefits the company? I mean, it seems counterintuitive that working less could lead to better results.
I know it seems like a paradox, right? But studies have shown that a 4-day work week can lead to increased productivity, improved employee morale, and even reduced operating costs.
Hold on, how does that work? How can working less actually lead to more productivity that defies logic?
It might seem counterintuitive, but when employees have more time to rest and recharge, they come back to work feeling more energized and focused. That increased focus can lead to greater efficiency and a higher quality of work.
So it's not about the quantity of time we spend working, but the quality of our attention and energy when we are working.
Exactly. And some companies have found that condensing the work week forces everyone to be more intentional with their time, streamlining processes and eliminating unnecessary meetings or tasks.
So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Happier, more productive employees, and potentially lower costs for the company.
It seems that way. Of course, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
Implementing a 4-day work week requires careful planning, clear communication, and a culture that truly supports work-life balance.
Right. It's not just about shortening the work week. It's about a fundamental shift in how we approach work and productivity.
It requires a willingness to challenge traditional assumptions and embrace new ways of working. And it's a reminder that the world of work is constantly evolving. What worked in the past might not be the best approach for the future.
So are we saying that there's no single right answer when it comes to work-life balance and hustle culture? Is it all about finding what works best for each individual and organization?
I think that's a key takeaway here. There's no magic formula or one-size-fits-all approach. It's about recognizing that everyone has different needs, priorities, and aspirations when it comes to work and life.
And that there's no shame in choosing a path that prioritizes well-being and personal fulfillment, even if it goes against the hustle harder narrative that's so prevalent today.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself some important questions. What truly matters to me? What kind of life do I want to create? And how can I design my work life to support those goals?
Those are some big questions, questions that might require some deep soul-searching and honest self-reflection. It's about figuring out what success really means to you, not what society or your Instagram feed tells you it should mean.
You're getting right to the heart of it because ultimately we all want to feel a sense of purpose and fulfillment in our work, and that looks different for everyone.
Okay, so we've seen how people are challenging traditional work models and experimenting with new approaches to blend work and life. But how do we take all these inspiring examples and translate them into practical strategies for our own lives?
Right.
How do we actually create a work life that feels aligned with our values and aspirations?
That's exactly what we'll explore in part 3. We'll dive into some concrete tools and techniques that can help you design a work life that brings you joy, energy, and a sense of purpose. So stay tuned.
Okay, so we've explored all this research, we've looked at those real-world examples, and now it's time to, get down to brass tacks.
Right, let's get practical.
Yeah, how can we actually take all this information and use it to create a work life we truly love?
Well, it's all about translating those inspiring ideas into those actionable steps.
Right.
It can feel kind of overwhelming, but I think if we break it down,
Right.
it becomes a little more manageable.
Yeah, I'm all for breaking things down. So where do we even begin?
I think the most important starting point is really getting clear on your priorities.
Priorities.
What truly matters to you? What are your values, your goals? What kind of life do you want to create for yourself?
So it's about digging deeper than just those surface level desires.
Yes.
It's about understanding what makes you tick, what motivates you, what brings you joy.
Because once you have a really solid grasp on your priorities, you can start making decisions that are aligned with them.
Okay.
It's like having a compass to guide you through that maze of work and life,
Right.
helping you stay on course, even when things get a little chaotic.
I love that analogy, but how do we actually do that? I mean, priorities can feel pretty abstract sometimes. How do we make them more concrete and actionable?
That's where setting boundaries comes in.
Boundaries.
It's about protecting your time and energy so you can focus on those things that are truly important to you.
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. We hear so much about them.
Right. They're everywhere.
But they can be so hard to implement. Any tips on how to actually make them stick?
One thing that can be helpful is to just start small.
Okay.
You don't have to go from 0 to 60 overnight.
Right.
Just pick one area where you feel like your boundaries are weakest and focus on making a small but sustainable change.
Okay, so baby steps.
Baby steps, exactly.
Give me an example. Let's say I'm terrible at disconnecting from work after hours.
Okay.
I'm constantly checking emails and feeling like I'm always on.
Yeah, that's a common one.
Where do I even start?
How about setting a rule for yourself that you won't check work emails after a certain time each evening?
Okay.
Maybe 7 p.m., 8 p.m., something like that.
Okay, I could do that. It's a small change, but I can already feel the difference just thinking about it. It's like giving myself permission to mentally clock out and focus on other things.
Exactly. And once you've mastered that boundary, you can gradually add more.
Okay.
It's all about building up those boundary muscles over time.
So we've got priorities and boundaries. What else is essential for creating a work life that truly supports our well-being and helps us thrive?
Don't underestimate the power of routine.
Okay, routine. Sometimes that word makes me cringe a little bit.
I get it.
I like to think of myself as spontaneous and flexible, not bound by a rigid schedule.
Right, but hear me out. When it comes to work-life balance, a well-designed routine can actually be incredibly freeing.
Really?
Think about it this way. When you have a solid routine in place, you're not constantly having to make decisions about when to work, when to eat, when to exercise, when to relax.
Way.
All those decisions take up mental energy that could be used for more creative and fulfilling pursuits.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It's like having a framework in place so you can focus on the content rather than the logistics.
Yeah.
But how do we create a routine that doesn't feel restrictive or boring? How do we make it work for us?
It's all about designing a routine that aligns with your natural rhythms and supports your priorities, for example, if you know you're most productive in the mornings. Schedule your most important work tasks for that time of day, and then block off time in the afternoon for things that energize you. Maybe it's working on a creative project, spending time with loved ones, or getting some exercise.
So it's about understanding your own energy patterns and structuring your day in a way that maximizes your focus and minimizes distractions.
Yes, it's about working smarter, not harder.
Okay, I like that a lot. So we've got priorities, boundaries, routine.
hmm
I'm sensing there's one more piece to this puzzle.
You're right. We can't talk about creating a fulfilling work life without talking about self-care,
Self-care, that's the buzzword of the century.
right?
But it's also something that often gets pushed to the bottom of the to-do list.
Unfortunately.
Why is self-care so important in this conversation about work-life balance?
Because when you're feeling depleted, stressed, overwhelmed, it's virtually impossible to show up as your best self in any area of your life. You can't pour from an empty cup.
So true. When I'm running on empty, everything feels like an uphill battle.
I know the feeling.
Work feels harder, relationships feel strained, and even simple tasks just feel overwhelming.
Exactly. Self-care is about replenishing your energy reserves so you can show up fully for your work, your relationships, and most importantly for yourself. It's about prioritizing your well-being so you can thrive in all areas of your life.
And it's not just about bubble baths and face masks, right?
No, although those can definitely be a part of it.
Right, of course.
Self-care is really about anything that nourishes your mind, body, and soul.
Right.
It could be getting enough sleep, eating healthy food, spending time in nature, moving your body in a way that feels good, connecting with loved ones, pursuing a hobby, or simply taking some time for quiet reflection.
It's about listening to your body and giving it what it needs to thrive.
Yes.
And recognizing that what fills you up might be different from what fills up someone else.
Exactly. Self-care is deeply personal, and it's about finding what truly works for you. It's about creating a toolbox of practices that help you manage stress, boost your energy, and cultivate a sense of peace and well-being.
Okay, so we've got priorities, boundaries, routine, and self-care. Those are some powerful tools for creating a work life that feels aligned with our values and aspirations.
And remember, this is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when you feel perfectly balanced and times when you feel like you're teetering on the edge.
Yeah, that's life, right?
The key is to keep learning, keep adjusting, and keep striving for a work life that feels good and supports your overall well-being.
So it's not about achieving some mythical state of perfect balance.
No.
It's about continually evolving and adapting as our needs and circumstances change.
Exactly. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. What works for your best friend, your colleague, or that influencer you follow on Instagram might not work for you. It's about finding your own unique path.
And trusting your own intuition to guide you towards a work life that brings you joy, energy, and a sense of purpose.
Will said, this whole conversation reminds me of a quote by the author Brian Dyson. He said, "Imagine life as a game in which you are juggling 5 balls in the air. They are work, family, health, friends, and spirit. And you're keeping all of these in the air, but one day you finally come to understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. But the other 4 balls, family, health, friends, and spirit, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, they will be irrevocably scuffed, marked, nicked, damaged, or even shattered. They will never be the same. You must understand that and strive for balance in your life."
That's such a powerful image. It's a reminder that while work is important, it's not the only thing that matters, and that neglecting other areas of our lives can have lasting consequences.
It's about finding a way to integrate work into a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling rather than letting it consume us.
All right, folks, that's a wrap on our deep dive into work-life balance and hustle culture. We hope this conversation has given you some food for thought, some practical strategies, and most importantly, permission to create a work life that truly supports your well-being and fuels your success.
Remember, the power to create a work life that you love is in your hands. It's about making conscious choices, setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and staying true to what matters most to you.
Until next time, stay curious, stay intentional, and keep diving deep.